The Galactic Federation had existed for 12,000 years. It was made of 347 species from across the known universe. They had seen many things. They had seen wars that burned whole star systems. They had seen peace treaties that lasted for centuries. They had seen species rise and fall like waves on a cosmic shore. But they had never seen anything like humans. Ambassador Crixval stood in the observation deck of the Federation Council Station. His 4 eyes watched the blue and green planet below. Earth. The humans called it Earth. Such a simple name for such a complicated species. "You are troubled," said a voice behind him. Crixval turned to see High Counselor Metheron. The ancient being floated on her gravity disk, her crystalline body catching the starlight. She was over 900 years old, one of the oldest members of the council. "I am trying to understand them," Crixval said. "The humans, they make no sense." "They are young," Metheron said. "Only 200 years since they reached the stars. Give them time." "That is not what confuses me." Crixval pulled up a holographic display. It showed a list of human military actions over the past 50 years. "Look at this record. They fought the Croshan Empire when the Croshans attacked a mining colony. Reasonable. They fought the Vex Collective when the Vex tried to steal their technology. Also reasonable." He scrolled down the list. "But then look at these. They went to war with the Drell Consortium over a species called the Melani. The Melani have no military, no weapons, no resources worth taking. They are simple farmers on a small world." "Perhaps the humans wanted the farming world," Metheron suggested. "No, they gave the world back to the Melani after the war. They asked for nothing." Crixval's voice was full of confusion. "And here, they destroyed an entire Gorath fleet to protect the Singing Ones of Velar 7. The Singing Ones cannot even speak normally. They can only communicate through music. They have no military value, no economic value, nothing." Metheron was quiet for a long moment. "What do these species have in common?" "I have studied this for months. The only common thing is that they are all weak. They cannot defend themselves. They have no armies, no weapons, no way to fight back against those who would hurt them. And the humans protect them." "Yes, but why?" Crixval turned all 4 of his eyes toward the High Counselor. "In the Federation, we protect those who can offer something in return, trade agreements, military alliances, resources. The humans ask for none of these things. They simply fight. And they fight harder for these weak species than they fight for themselves." Metheron's crystalline body hummed with thought. "Perhaps we should ask them." "I have tried. Their ambassador speaks of concepts I do not understand. Honor, duty, something they call the right thing to do. These words have no clear meaning in any Federation language." Before Metheron could respond, an alarm cut through the station. Red lights flashed. A voice spoke over the communication system. "Emergency alert. All council members report to the main chamber. Emergency alert. Situation developing in the outer rim." Crixval and Metheron moved quickly through the corridors. The main chamber was already filling with representatives from dozens of species. Holographic screens showed star maps and data streams. At the center podium stood Administrator Yeel, a tall being with silver skin and 6 arms. His voice was calm but urgent. 40 minutes ago, we received a distress signal from the Quellan system. The harvesters have returned." A wave of fear moved through the chamber. The harvesters were a nightmare from the past. They were not a species but a machine intelligence. They traveled from system to system, taking everything useful: resources, technology, and organic beings. No one knew what they did with the organics they took. No one who was taken ever came back. "I thought the harvesters were destroyed 300 years ago," someone called out. "We believed they were," Administrator Yeel said. "We were wrong. This appears to be a new swarm, smaller than historical records but still containing approximately 40,000 ships." The screens showed the Quellan system. It was a small system at the edge of Federation space. 3 planets orbited a yellow star. Only 1 planet was inhabited. The Quellan homeworld has a population of 2 billion, Yale continued. They are a peaceful species. They have no military, no weapons. Their technology is focused entirely on art and music. They create the most beautiful sculptures in the known galaxy. Crixval felt his heart sink. He knew what this meant. The Quellan could not fight. They could not run. Their ships were slow transport vessels not built for escape. They were trapped. "What forces can we send?" Metheron asked. Yale checked his data. The nearest Federation fleet is the 3rd Armada, 12 hours away. The Harvester swarm will reach the Quellan homeworld in 6 hours. "Then we cannot save them," said Representative Vorn of the Keth Dominion. His voice held no emotion. "It is unfortunate, but we must be practical. The Federation cannot risk a fleet against the Harvesters for a species that offers nothing in return." Several other representatives nodded. It was cold logic, Federation logic. The Quellan had no military value, no economic value. They could not fight back. In the calculations of the Federation, they were not worth the cost of saving. "What about the humans?" someone asked. Yale checked his display. The human vessel Prometheus is currently 4 hours from the Quellan system. It is a single ship, a destroyer class, crew of 300. "1 ship against 40,000, Representative Vorn laughed. "Even humans are not that foolish." At that moment, the chamber doors opened. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked in. She was small by human standards, with dark hair and calm eyes. She had been the human representative to the Federation for 5 years. "I apologize for my lateness," she said. "I was on a communication with Earth Command." "Ambassador Chen," Metheron said, "we were just discussing the situation in the Quellan system." "Yes, I know." Chen's voice was steady. "The Prometheus has already changed course. They will arrive at the Quellan homeworld in 3 hours and 47 minutes. The chamber went silent. "Ambassador," Crixval said carefully, "you understand that the Prometheus will face 40,000 Harvester ships, alone, with no support." "Yes." "And your people are still going." Chen looked at him. Her eyes were not cold or angry. They were simply determined. "The Quellan cannot fight for themselves. Someone has to fight for them." "But you will die," Representative Vorn said. "All 300 of your crew will die for a species that cannot help you, that cannot pay you, that cannot offer you anything." Chen smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "Representative Vorn, let me ask you something. On your world, do parents protect their children?" Vorn looked confused. "Of course, children are the future of our species." "And when a Keth parent protects a child from danger, do they ask the child for payment, for military alliance, for resources?" "No, that would be absurd. Children cannot offer such things." "Then why do Keth parents protect their children?" Vorn opened his mouth. Then he closed it. He had no answer. Chen turned to address the whole chamber. "Humans have a belief. We believe that the strong have a duty to protect the weak, not because the weak can pay us, not because they can help us, but because they need protection and we can provide it." She paused. "The Quellan are artists. They create beauty. They hurt no one. They want only to live in peace and make their sculptures, and now monsters are coming to take them, to do terrible things to them, things they cannot stop." Her voice grew stronger. "Someone has to say no. Someone has to stand between the innocent and those who would hurt them. If not us, then who? If not now, then when?" Crixval watched her. He was beginning to understand something, something that made his 4 hearts beat faster. "Earth Command has made a decision," Chen continued. "We are diverting 3 more ships to the Quellan system, the Thunder, the Valiant, and the Righteous Fury. They will arrive 2 hours after the Prometheus." 4 ships against 40,000, Metheron said quietly. "If necessary, yes." Chen's jaw was set. but we are hoping the Federation will join us." The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives called the humans foolish. Others called them brave. Some said the Federation should not risk resources on a lost cause. Others said the Federation could not let the humans fight alone. Through it all, Crixval watched Ambassador Chen. She stood calmly at the center of the storm. She did not argue, she did not plead, she simply waited. And Crixval realized something that changed everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. The humans were not fighting because they thought they would win. They were fighting because they believed it was right. Because 2 billion innocent beings needed help. Because the strong should protect the weak. It was not logical. It was not practical. By every calculation the Federation used, it was a waste of lives and resources. But it was beautiful, and it was terrifying, because Crixval understood now that the humans would never stop. They would throw themselves against any enemy, face any odds, sacrifice anything, to protect those who could not protect themselves. The Galactic Federation was about to learn what that really meant. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and watched the Quellan homeworld grow larger on the main screen. It was a beautiful planet, green continents, blue oceans, white clouds drifting across the surface like brushstrokes on a painting. 2 billion people lived down there. 2 billion gentle souls who had never held a weapon in their lives. "Status report," she said. Lieutenant Commander James Wright checked his console. "Harvester swarm will reach the planet in 2 hours and 15 minutes. We have a 20-minute head start." "Not much time." "No, ma'am." Santos turned to her tactical officer. "What do we have to work with?" Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka pulled up the Prometheus's inventory. Standard destroyer armament, 40 missile tubes, 2 main rail guns, point defense systems, enough ammunition for approximately 6 hours of sustained combat. Against 40,000 ships. Tanaka did not flinch. "Yes, Captain." Santos nodded slowly. She had known the odds when she gave the order to change course. Every member of her crew had known, and not one of them had complained. Not one had asked her to reconsider. Because they were human, and humans did not abandon the helpless to monsters. "Open a channel to the Quellan government," she said. The main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was a Quellan with large dark eyes and skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. The being's features were delicate, almost fragile-looking. "I am Premier Solith," the Quellan said. His voice was musical, each word containing subtle harmonies. "You are the human ship." "I am Captain Maria Santos of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We are here to help." Premier Solith's eyes glistened. "We received your message. We did not believe it at first. The Federation told us no help would come. They said we were not valuable enough." Santos felt anger rise in her chest. She pushed it down. There would be time for anger later. The Federation was wrong. Help is coming. "One ship," Solith's voice cracked. "Forgive me, Captain, I mean no disrespect, but one ship cannot stand against the Harvesters. Our historians have records of them. They destroyed entire civilizations. Civilizations with vast armies. We have nothing. We cannot fight. We cannot run. We can only wait to die." "Then let me ask you something, Premier." Santos leaned forward. "Can your people build things quickly?" Solith looked confused. "We are artists and craftsmen. Building is what we do." "Do you have orbital stations, satellites, anything we can use as platforms?" "We have many orbital art galleries, museums floating in space to show our sculptures to visitors, but they are not weapons." Santos smiled. It was a warrior's smile. "Premier, I need you to trust me. I have a plan. It might not work. We might all die anyway, but I will not let your people face this alone, and I will not let them be taken without a fight." Solith was quiet for a long moment. Then he bowed his head. "In 2,000 years, no one has ever offered to fight for us. We do not understand why you do this, but we will help in any way we can." Good, start evacuating your cities. Move people underground into caves, anywhere the harvesters will have trouble reaching, and send me the locations of every orbital structure you have. It will be done. The channel closed. Santos turned to her crew. All right, everyone. We have 2 hours to build a defense against 40,000 enemy ships. I need ideas, crazy ideas, ideas that would get you thrown out of the academy, because standard tactics are not going to save us. Wright spoke first. Captain, the harvesters use a swarm pattern. They overwhelm enemies with numbers, but that means they rely on coordination. If we can disrupt their communication. Their communication is quantum encrypted, Tanaka said. We cannot break it. No, but we can jam it. Flood the area with enough electromagnetic interference, and their signals will get lost in the noise. Santos nodded. What would we need? A lot of power, more than the Prometheus can generate. Wright thought for a moment. But if we can convert those Quellen orbital stations into broadcast arrays. Do it, what else? A young ensign near the back of the bridge raised his hand. Captain, I have a suggestion, but it is a bit crazy. Crazy is exactly what I asked for, Ensign. Park, ma'am, Ensign David Park. The young man stepped forward. The harvesters collect organic beings. They prioritize population centers. What if we make them think there are more population centers than there actually are? Decoys. Yes, the Quellen have transport ships, simple vessels. What if we load them with beacons that mimic life signs, spread them across the system? The harvester swarm will have to split up to investigate each one. Santos felt a grin spreading across her face. Divide and conquer, I like it. Tanaka, can we rig life sign emitters that quickly? Yes, Captain, the technology is simple, we just need the ships. Premier Solith will provide them. For the next 2 hours, the Prometheus worked at a speed that would have impressed any engineer in the galaxy. The crew coordinated with the Quellen, explaining what needed to be done in simple terms. The Quellen might not have known how to fight, but they knew how to build. They followed instructions perfectly. Their hands created the devices that might save their world. 30 orbital art galleries became massive jamming stations. 200 transport ships became decoys, scattered across the system, each one broadcasting fake life signs. The Prometheus itself took up position in the planet's orbit, directly in the path of the incoming swarm. Santos watched her crew work. She had never been more proud to be human. Every person on the ship knew they might die today, and every single one of them was giving everything they had to protect a people they had never met. That was what humans did. That was who they were. A signal came through from the system's edge. The harvesters had arrived. The main screen filled with ships, 40,000 of them. They were ugly things, all angles and spikes, designed for one purpose only, harvest. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of death rolling toward the peaceful world. All stations report ready, Tanaka announced. Decoys in position, Wright confirmed. Santos took a deep breath. All hands, this is the captain. The enemy is here. They are many and we are few, but we are not here to count odds. We are here because 2 billion innocent people need our help. We are here because some things are worth fighting for, even when you cannot win. She paused. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity stands for. We stand for those who cannot stand for themselves. We fight for those who cannot fight. And if we fall knowing that we did the right thing. She straightened her shoulders. Activate jamming arrays, launch decoys, and prepare to make these bastards work for every inch they take. The battle for the Quellen homeworld had begun. The harvester swarm hit the jamming field like a wave hitting a wall. Their perfect formation shattered. Ships began moving in confused patterns, cutting off from their central coordination. The machine intelligence that controlled them was still functioning, but now each ship had to rely on local processing instead of the collective mind. Jamming is effective, Wright reported. Enemy formation is breaking apart. They're taking the bait, Tanaka added. A holographic map showed the harvester swarm splitting into hundreds of smaller groups. Each group was heading toward a different decoy, drawn by the fake life signs. Santos watched the display. It was working, but it would not work for long. The harvesters were machines. They would figure out the trick soon enough, and when they did, they would come for the real prize. How long until the Thunder and the other ships arrive? She asked. 1 hour and 20 minutes. Too long. The decoys might buy them an hour, maybe less. That left 20 minutes or more when the Prometheus would have to hold alone against a regrouping swarm. Captain, Tanaka's voice was urgent. The main body of the swarm is not going for the decoys. Approximately 15,000 ships are maintaining course for the planet. Santos felt her heart sink. The harvesters were not all fooled. They had kept enough ships focused on the real target to overwhelm any defense. Then we stopped those 15,000, she said. All weapons prepare to fire on my command. The Prometheus moved to intercept. It was a single ship against a sea of enemies. The odds were impossible, but impossible had never stopped humans before. Fire! The space around the Prometheus erupted in light. Missiles streaked toward the harvester formation. Railgun slugs tore through vacuum at incredible speeds. Point defense systems created walls of fire that shredded any ship that came too close. The first wave of harvesters fell, then the second, then the third. But they kept coming. On the Federation Council station, the representatives watched the battle in stunned silence. The holographic display showed the Prometheus, alone against thousands of enemies. The little human ship was fighting like a demon, twisting and turning, firing constantly, refusing to give ground. Unbelievable, Krixval whispered. They are actually holding. They cannot hold forever, Representative Vorn said, but his voice had lost its dismissive tone. Even he could not deny the courage on display. Ambassador Chen stood at her position, watching the screen. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her face was calm, but those who looked closely could see the tension in her shoulders, the fear for her people that she would not show. The Third Armada could arrive in time if we divert them now, Metheron said quietly. The Council has not voted to send them, but, Chen asked. But perhaps a vote is not necessary. Perhaps there is another way. The old crystalline being moved to the center of the chamber. Her voice rang out clearly. I have been a member of this council for 600 years. I have seen many things. I have never seen anything like what we are watching now. She gestured to the display. 300 humans against 15,000 harvesters. They know they will die. They know no help is coming, and still they fight. Not for money, not for power, not for anything the Federation values. They fight because innocent people need them. Metheron turned in a slow circle, looking at each representative in turn. We have always believed that strength is measured by what you can take, by what you can hold, by what you can gain. The humans have shown us a different kind of strength, the strength to give, the strength to sacrifice, the strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Her voice grew harder. The Federation left the Quellan to die because they had nothing to offer us. What does that say about us? What does it say about the civilization we have built? That we will only save those who can pay, that we measure the worth of a life by its usefulness. She pointed at the screen, where the Prometheus was now trailing fire from a dozen impacts. Those humans are dying right now, dying for people they have never met, dying for a principle we have forgotten, and we sit here and calculate whether it is worth our time to help. The chamber was silent. I am old, Metheron said. I have lived long enough to see empires rise and fall, and I tell you now, the Federation will fall if we continue on this path, not to any enemy, but to our own emptiness. We will become so focused on profit and power that we will forget why civilization exists in the first place. She raised herself higher on her gravity disk. The humans remember. They know that civilization exists to protect the weak, to nurture the helpless, to ensure that those who cannot fight still have a chance to live. Her crystalline body began to glow with an inner light. I call for an immediate vote. Send the Third Armada to the Quellan system. Fight beside the humans. Show the galaxy that the Federation has not forgotten what it means to be good. The vote was not close. 312 representatives voted yes, 35 voted no. The Third Armada changed course. Ambassador Chen allowed herself a small smile, but she did not celebrate, because on the screen, the Prometheus was still fighting, and she knew that the Armada would not arrive in time to save everyone. Some humans were going to die today. They had known that from the beginning, and they had gone anyway. That was what the galaxy was finally beginning to understand. Captain Santos wiped blood from her face. A console had exploded next to her during the last attack. 3 of her bridge crew were dead. The ship was holding together, but barely. "Status," she croaked. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, Wright reported. His voice was steady despite the chaos. "Main rail gun is offline. Missile reserves at 30%. Shield generators are failing." "How many did we get?" "Approximately 3,000 confirmed kills." 3,000 out of 15,000, and the Prometheus was dying. "The decoy groups are returning," Tanaka said. "They figured out the trick. We have approximately 25,000 ships converging on our position." 25,000. Santos almost laughed. They had started with 40,000. They had bought time. They had saved lives, but now the end was coming. She opened a channel to the Quellan homeworld. Premier Solith's face appeared, streaked with tears. "Captain Santos," he said, "we have been watching what you have done. There are no words in our language." "How many did you evacuate?" 1.2 billion. They are underground, in caves, in bunkers. The harvesters will have difficulty finding them." 1.2 billion. Out of 2 billion, it was not everyone, but it was something. "I am sorry we could not save more," Santos said. "You saved more than anyone else would have." Solith's voice broke. "You saved more than we had any right to ask for. You are dying for us, Captain. Dying for people you do not know. Why? I still do not understand why." Santos thought about the question. She thought about her parents, who had taught her that strength was meant for service. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, who would grow up knowing that her mother died protecting the innocent. She thought about all the humans who had ever stood between the weak and the strong, going back to the very beginning of history. "Because it is right," she said simply. "Because if we do not protect the helpless, then what are we? What is the point of being strong if we only use that strength for ourselves?" Solith bowed his head. "When we rebuild, we will remember you. We will build statues of you. We will tell stories of you. Your name will echo through our history forever." "I do not need statues, Premier. I just need you to live. And someday, when you meet another species that needs help, remember this moment. Remember that someone fought for you, and pay it forward." The channel closed. Santos turned back to her crew. "All hands, this is the captain. It has been an honor serving with you. We have done everything we could. We have saved over 1 billion lives. Now we make our final stand, and we make it count." The Prometheus turned toward the approaching swarm. Every weapon was armed. Every system was pushed to its limits. 300 humans prepared to face 25,000 enemies. And then the sky filled with light. Ships dropped out of hyperspace, dozens of them, then hundreds. The Third Armada had arrived, and they were not alone. Behind the Armada came more ships, ships from a dozen different Federation species, ships that had heard what the humans were doing and had come to help, ships whose captains had decided that some things were worth fighting for, even if their governments disagreed. "Federation vessels are engaging the Harvester swarm," Wright reported, his voice filled with wonder. They are actually here. Santos felt tears streaming down her face. They were not going to die alone. The Federation had remembered. And more ships were coming. The Thunder, the Valiant, the Righteous Fury. The human reinforcements had arrived at the same time as the Federation fleet. It was not coincidence. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of timing. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson of the Earth Fleet. A voice came over the communication system. Sorry we are late, Prometheus, but we brought some friends. Santos laughed. It hurt her ribs, but she laughed anyway. Admiral, you have no idea how glad we are to see you. Captain Santos, you and your crew are heroes. The whole Federation is watching what you did here today. Now let us finish what you started. The battle resumed, but this time it was not 300 against thousands. It was a united fleet against a common enemy. Human ships fought beside Keth warships. Crystalline vessels from Metheron's homeworld flew formation with destroyers from the Drell Consortium. Species that had never fought together, species that had old grudges and ancient rivalries, stood together against the Harvesters. Because a single human ship had shown them what it meant to be brave, what it meant to be good, what it meant to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. The Harvesters did not stand a chance. 3 days later, Ambassador Chen stood before the Federation Council. The chamber was full. Every representative was present. The holographic screens showed images from the Quellan system, the wreckage of the Harvester swarm, the celebrating Quellan, the battered but surviving Prometheus being towed back to port. The threat has been neutralized, Chen reported. The Quellan homeworld is safe. Preliminary estimates suggest that we destroyed 38,000 Harvester ships. The remaining 2,000 fled into deep space. We will hunt them down. And the cost? Metheron asked. Chen's voice was steady. The Prometheus lost 117 crew members. 34 Federation ships were destroyed, with a total loss of approximately 8,000 personnel. The Quellan lost approximately 800 million people, mostly in the initial attack before evacuations were complete. The numbers hung in the air. They were heavy. They were painful, but they were not as heavy as they could have been. 800 million, Representative Vorn said quietly. A terrible loss, but without the human intervention it would have been 2 billion, the entire species. Yes, Chen said. Vorn stood slowly. The Keth representative was not known for emotion. His species prided themselves on cold logic, but now something in his eyes had changed. I owe the humans an apology, he said. When you announced that the Prometheus would face the Harvesters alone, I called you foolish. I said you were wasting lives for a species that could offer nothing in return. He paused. I was wrong. I was thinking in terms of transactions, trades, exchanges of value. The humans were thinking in terms of something else, something I had forgotten existed. What is that? Chen asked. Duty. Vorn spoke the word like it was new to him. The duty of the strong to protect the weak, not because of what they can gain, but because it is right. He looked around the chamber. The humans have shown us something today. They have shown us that civilization is not just about trade agreements and military alliances. It is about protecting those who need protection. It is about standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. Vorn bowed his head toward Chen. I do not know if my species can learn to think as you do, but I promise to try, and I promise that the Keth Dominion will never again calculate the value of a life by what it can offer us. One by one, other representatives stood. They spoke of what they had learned, of how their view of the galaxy had changed, of how the humans had reminded them of something they had lost. Krixval was the last to speak. I have spent months trying to understand humans, he said. I studied your wars, your history, your culture. I could not make sense of it. Why would you fight hardest for those who could give you nothing in return? He turned to face Chen directly. Now I understand. You do not measure the worth of a life by its usefulness. You measure it by its existence. Every life has value to you simply because it is a life. And those who cannot defend themselves are the most precious because they need you the most. His 4 eyes met her too. The Galactic Federation has existed for 12,000 years. In all that time, we have never had a species like you. A species that sees protecting the helpless as the highest calling. A species that will throw itself against impossible odds to save those who cannot save themselves. He paused. Some of us were afraid of humans. We thought you were dangerous. We thought your aggression would threaten the peace of the galaxy. His voice softened. We were right that you are dangerous, but we were wrong about why. You are not dangerous to the peaceful and the innocent. You are dangerous to those who would harm them. You are the protectors, the guardians, the shield between the weak and the strong. Crixval bowed low. On behalf of the Varan people, I thank you, and I pledge that we will stand beside you, not as allies of convenience, but as students learning what it truly means to be civilized. Chen felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back. Thank you, Representative Crixval. Thank you all, but I want to be clear about something. We are not heroes. We are not special. We are just human. This is what we do. This is who we are. She looked around the chamber. Every species here has the capacity for what we did. Every being in this galaxy can choose to protect the helpless, can choose to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves. It is not a human trait. It is a choice that anyone can make. Her voice grew stronger. Today, the Federation made that choice. You sent your ships to help us. You fought beside us. You proved that the values we hold are not unique to Earth. They are universal. They exist in every species, waiting to be awakened. She smiled. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Together, human and alien, we can build a galaxy where the weak do not fear the strong, where the helpless know that someone will always fight for them, where the measure of civilization is not power but compassion. Chen raised her hand in salute. To those who fell defending the Quellan homeworld, to the humans and the aliens who gave their lives for people they never knew, they did not die in vain. They died to show us what we can be, what we must be, what we will be. The chamber erupted in applause, not the polite, measured applause of diplomats, real applause, applause from beings who had been changed, who had seen something they would never forget. And in that moment, the Galactic Federation truly understood what humans were, not warriors, not conquerors, not explorers. Protectors. The galaxy would never be the same. 1 year later, Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of a new ship. The Prometheus II was larger than its predecessor, faster, better armed, but the name remained the same, a reminder of what had been sacrificed and what had been saved. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Wright walked up beside her. He had been promoted after the battle, as had many of the Prometheus survivors. We are receiving a transmission from the Quellan homeworld. Put it through. Premier Solith's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Santos could see a massive structure rising into the sky. It was a sculpture, hundreds of meters tall, depicting a human ship surrounded by stars. Captain Santos, Solith said, his voice was warm. I wanted you to see, our monument is complete. Santos stared at the sculpture. It was beautiful. The Quellan had captured the Prometheus perfectly, every detail exact, but stylized in a way that made it seem almost mythical. It is called the Protectors, Solith continued. Every child born on our world will see it. Every generation will know the story. Humans came to save us when no one else would. They fought and died for us, asking nothing in return. Premier, I do not know what to say. Solith smiled. You taught us something, Captain, something we had never understood. You taught us that strength is not about what you can take. It is about what you can give, what you can protect, what you can save. He gestured behind him. Do you see those ships? Santos looked. There were several vessels in orbit around the Quellan homeworld. They were not human ships. They were not Federation ships, they were something new. Those are our first military vessels, Solith explained. We have never had weapons before. We never understood why anyone would need them, but you showed us. Weapons are not just for conquest, they are for protection. They are tools for those who would defend the helpless. His voice grew firm. The Quellan will never be warriors. That is not our nature, but we will be guardians. When others face what we faced, we will be there to help. We will stand beside the humans and all who fight for the innocent. Santos felt her heart swell with pride. Not pride in herself or her crew, pride in what they had started, in the change they had created. "Welcome to the fight, Premier," she said. "Thank you, Captain, and thank you for teaching us that there are some things worth fighting for." The transmission ended. Santos stared at the screen for a long moment. Captain Wright asked, "Are you all right?" "I am better than all right, Commander." She turned to face her crew. They were a mix now. Humans, Quellan, representatives from a dozen Federation species, all serving together, all united by a common purpose. "Set course for the Outer Rim," she ordered. "There are reports of raiders attacking a refugee colony, people who need our help." "Aye, Captain," course laid in. Santos settled into her command chair. The Prometheus II leaped toward the stars. And across the galaxy, other ships did the same. Ships crewed by beings who had learned a simple truth from humanity. The strong exist to protect the weak. Power has no meaning unless it is used for good. And the measure of a civilization is not what it can take, but what it will sacrifice to defend the innocent. The Galactic Federation had changed. Humans had changed it, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through example, through courage, through the simple act of standing between the helpless and those who would harm them. And in the vastness of space, where countless species looked up at countless stars, a new understanding spread. Humanity had shown them that there was another way, a better way, a way where strength was measured not by dominion, but by the number of lives protected, where power was judged not by what it could destroy, but by what it could save. The galaxy was still vast, still dangerous, still full of threats that would prey on the weak. But now the weak had defenders, they had protectors, they had those who would fight for them no matter the odds, no matter the cost. They had humanity, and they had all those who had learned from humanity's example. The harvesters had been destroyed, but they were just the first. There would be other threats, other challenges, other moments when the innocent would need champions. And those champions would always be there, standing in the darkness, holding the line, fighting for those who could not fight for themselves. Because that was what it meant to be truly civilized. That was the lesson humanity had taught the stars. And it was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.